My name is Harper Lane. I'm 29 years old, and on the night my family threw me a graduation party, my nephew shoved my cake off the table while everyone watched. Frosting exploded across the grass. Paper plates skidded, and my mother laughed as she said, "Harper, don't be dramatic. It's just a piece of paper you'll never use anyway." I walked out to the sound of their laughter. What they didn't know was that by the next morning I'd make sure I was the one cutting them off. Before I go on, tell me where you're watching from. And hit like and subscribe if you've ever been betrayed by your own family. Stories like this don't start with explosions. They start with small cuts, little jokes, tiny humiliations that everyone else finds funny. Stay with me because what happened after that night changed everything. I grew up in a house where responsibility had a name, and that name was always mine. Even now, when I think back on that little beige house in Spokane, the one with the cracked driveway and the aluminum wind chimes that never stopped ringing, I can still feel the weight of it settling on my shoulders like a wet coat. When I was 9, Evelyn, my mother started calling me her little grown-up. She'd say it with a bright voice like it was a compliment, usually while handing me a stack of dishes taller than my torso. Derek, 2 years older, and already the golden child, would be on the couch, controller in hand, blasting zombies on the TV. She never asked him to help. She didn't even glance in his direction. "Harper, sweetie, could you get the kitchen?" Derek had a long day at school. As if I didn't sit in the same classrooms, carry the same books, and walk the same miles home. The sink water was always too hot, the plate slick with leftover grease. The old faucet whined whenever I turned it. I remember looking out the kitchen window, seeing Derek riding his bike in the street with friends, and hearing Evelyn behind me say, "Good girl, you're just different from your brother." She meant dependable. She meant useful. I swallowed the confusion. I didn't know it then, but that word "different" was carving a quiet canyon inside me. Dinner was the same story. Evelyn would pile mashed potatoes high onto Derek's plate, add an extra scoop of mac and cheese, and slide it in front of him like it was ritual. She'd forget mine until I reminded her, and even then it felt like an afterthought. My dad, Russell, sat at the end of the table, eyes fixed on whatever game was playing on the muted TV. Occasionally he'd chuckle at something Derek said. I learned early that silence kept the peace, so I ate what I got, pretending it didn't sting when Derek asked for seconds before I had taken my third bite. Middle school didn't change much. I walked Noah, the same nephew who would shove my graduation cake years later, to the bus stop every morning because Evelyn claimed Derek wasn't a morning person, even though Derek was 13 and fully capable. I held Noah's sticky hand, listened to him complain about cartoons he didn't like, and watched Evelyn wave from the door with a proud smile, directed at them, not me. "Thank you, honey," she'd say, but it didn't sound like gratitude. It sounded like an expectation. In high school, everything tipped further. My first part-time job was at a grocery store down the street. 10 hours a week, minimum wage, sore feet, the smell of sour milk and cleaning chemicals clinging to my clothes. I saved every dollar hoping to buy a cheap used Honda, my small dream of freedom. When I finally got it, an ugly but loyal 1998 Civic, I thought I had earned something that belonged only to me. Then Derek took it. He asked once, casually, leaning on my bedroom doorframe, picking at his thumbnail, "Hey, can I take your car to school tomorrow? Mine's acting up." I hesitated. I needed it for work, but Evelyn's voice drifted from the hallway. "Harper, don't be selfish. Your brother needs help." So I handed over the keys. That night, he crashed it into a mailbox trying to impress his friends. The front bumper ripped, headlights shattered. My glove compartment crushed like paper. I cried in the driveway when I saw it. Derek shrugged. "Relax. It's old." Evelyn didn't even look at the car before she turned on me. "Why would you let him drive it? You know he's not careful. You should have said no." That was the first time I felt something break, not loudly but quietly, like a hairline crack in glass. I didn't know then that the truth had been worse. Years later, I would find out Derek had taken the car without my permission that morning. Evelyn lied to protect him, then forced me to apologize to him for raising my voice. And then came the scholarship. I'll never forget the envelope, white heavy with my name printed in dark ink. A partial scholarship to Washington State. I remember holding it in the living room, the afternoon sunlight catching the dust in the air. I was shaking. It felt like a door opening. Like oxygen. Evelyn read it once, then twice. And her face didn't soften. It hardened. "We can't afford to lose you," she whispered. "Who's going to help with bills with Noah? With the house?" Derek didn't even look up from his phone. Dad stared at the carpet. That night, she cried in the kitchen loud enough for me to hear through my bedroom wall. "This family will fall apart if she leaves," she sobbed. "We've sacrificed so much." By morning, the scholarship letter was folded on the table beside a cold cup of coffee. "I declined it for you," she said. "You'll understand someday." I didn't understand. I just swallowed it. But it was deeper than I thought. After the scholarship was gone, something in me dimmed. Not enough to disappear, just enough to stop glowing. I worked full-time at the diner on Garland Avenue, the one with the flickering neon sign and the greasy smell that clung to your hair no matter how many showers you took. My paycheck always went to the same places: groceries, utilities. Noah's school supplies, Derek's emergencies. And every time I handed Evelyn an envelope of cash, she'd pat my arm like I was doing something noble. "You're a good girl, Harper. Not like your brother, he's still figuring things out." Figuring things out meant sleeping until noon and bragging about job interviews he never showed up to. But I stayed quiet. I always stayed quiet. The second credit card incident happened in the winter when I turned 20. I remember the cold, the kind that cuts straight through your jacket and lives in your bones. Evelyn called, wailing into the phone. "The bank says we owe thousands, Harper. I can't sleep. I might have a heart attack." I left work early, rushed home on icy roads, only to find her at the kitchen table, perfectly composed, drinking tea. The bill was real. The story wasn't. It took me 2 months to pay off. I never told anyone that when I opened my bank app and saw my savings drain to almost zero, I had to sit on the bathroom floor at the diner to breathe. I pressed my forehead against the cold tile and told myself it was temporary. Just one more sacrifice. One more act of love. But at Thanksgiving that year, I heard my aunt laugh and say, "So Harper finally paid your loan back." "Huh, took her long enough." Evelyn smiled sweetly. "Kids, you know how they are. Kids." I was the only kid in the conversation paying for her mother's debt. The day I decided to leave Spokane wasn't dramatic. It was quiet, like most endings. Derek had borrowed money again, $200 for gas, even though he didn't have a job to drive to. I remember looking at my near-empty wallet, then at Noah sitting on the couch, eating chips crumbs everywhere. Evelyn scolded me for not vacuuming the living room before she got home. Something snapped, not loudly, but finally. I applied to Silvergrid Technologies the next day. The job was entry-level, but it was in Seattle, far enough away that guilt couldn't knock on my door every morning. When I got the acceptance email, I booked a one-way bus ticket, packed my clothes into 2 suitcases, and left at dawn. Evelyn cried again, but this time there were no walls thin enough for me to hear it. The Seattle air felt different. Cold, yes, but cleaner, like it wasn't carrying decades of someone else's expectations. My apartment in Queen Anne was tiny, barely large enough to turn around in, but it was mine. My first night there, I sat on the floor eating microwave noodles and listening to the steady hum of the building heater. I thought I would feel lonely. Instead, I felt peaceful. Work at Silvergrid was the first place where people looked at me and actually saw me. Kayla loved my systems. Jordan teased me for labeling everything. And Serena, the CEO, once stopped me in the hallway, touched the report in my hand, and said, "You're sharp. Keep going." No one in Spokane had ever used the word sharp about me. Useful, yes. Responsible, always. But sharp. That felt like a secret truth I wasn't supposed to know. The only problem was that even after I left, my family didn't leave me. The monthly auto payments kept draining my account, Evelyn's mortgage, Derek's car loan. Every time I tried to tell myself I was starting a new life, a notification from my bank reminded me I was still tethered to the old one. I didn't know it then, but those payments were just the beginning. They were the leash, tight, invisible, and tied around my throat. And the day it snapped, everything else would unravel with it. That was the past. A slow-burning fuse I didn't realize was lit. And the night of the graduation party, that was the explosion. The night of the graduation party didn't just end something, it exposed everything. I drove back to Seattle with the taste of their laughter still in my mouth, thick and metallic like blood. The road stretched endlessly in front of me, headlights slicing through the dark rain, tapping the windshield in uneven rhythms. I replayed the moment Noah's hands shoved the cake off the table. The way everyone froze for half a second, then burst into laughter like it was the funniest thing they'd seen all year. I kept seeing Evelyn's face the way she lifted her wine glass amused. Harper, don't be dramatic. You always get so emotional. By the time I reached my apartment, the rain had soaked through my jacket. Seattle was quiet, comfortingly quiet. The stairwell smelled like wet concrete and someone's leftover takeout. Inside, I kicked off my shoes and sank onto the couch, the cheap fabric cold against my skin. My phone buzzed. A single text from Evelyn. The family has decided to cut contact. Don't come back. A minute later, a heart reaction appeared. Derek. I didn't cry. I didn't even feel angry. I just stared at the message numb. Then I opened my laptop, pulled up my budget spreadsheet, and scrolled to the rows I'd avoided thinking about. Mom mortgage, $420. Derek auto, $610. 3 years of monthly withdrawals. 3 years of funding 2 people who didn't think I deserved a cake off the ground. I closed the spreadsheet. Something inside me shifted, not like cracking, but like a lock turning. The next morning, I logged into my credit report. Not because I expected anything, but because I suddenly needed to know exactly how many chains were tied to my name. The screen loaded slowly, the little spinning wheel mocking me. When the list of accounts finally appeared, I froze. There was a credit card I didn't recognize. Opened 18 months earlier. Near maxed. Payments are sporadic. Minimums barely met. I clicked into the details. My social security number, my childhood address, and under authorized users, Evelyn Lane. Derek Lane. My heartbeat didn't speed up. It dropped. Flatlined into a cold, steady thud. I called the bank. Fluorescent lights hummed overhead as a customer service rep with a cheerful voice read from her script. Yes, ma'am, this account was opened online. The application lists a secondary user using your mother's email. Would you like to dispute the ownership? Would I like to dispute it? I wanted to burn the whole system down. Yes, I whispered, gripping the phone. Start the dispute. And please email me the application details. When I hung up, my hands were shaking not from fear but from clarity. That night, I texted Russell. I'm removing my name from all family loans. Payments stop this month. He responded quickly, unusually so. Can you cover just one more? Your mother is very upset. Things are complicated. That was always the word. He sent another message. I'm proud of you, kiddo. I hope you know that. I stared at the screen, unable to tell if it was manipulation or truth or both. I didn't reply. 2 days later, I sat across from Alden Reyes at Evergreen Pacific Bank. The consultation room was cool, painted pale blue with a koi tank bubbling in the corner. Alden flipped through the folder of documents I'd brought: my lease, my pay stubs, the text where Evelyn wrote, "The house is ours. You just helped sign." He pressed his lips together. Harper, this is substantial. Is it enough? I asked. It's more than enough. He explained the liability release process step by step. Mortgage separation, auto loan removal, fraud flagging, account freezing. Each word landed like a hammer breaking concrete. You know, he said softly, you're not the first person to sit in this chair with a story like this, and you won't be the last. People confuse love with access all the time. I signed document after document, each stroke of my pen cutting another tether. When the final page was stamped, I exhaled, realizing I hadn't truly taken a full breath in years. The repercussions started faster than I expected. The next morning, my phone lit up with notifications: 50, then 70, then over 100 missed calls, a dozen voicemails, the family group chat exploding. You've gone too far. You're destroying us. After all we've done for you, I hope that degree keeps you warm when we're homeless. Derek left a 5-minute voicemail full of sarcasm and venom. So Seattle made you too good for us. You think freezing the accounts makes you strong. You're nothing without this family. Nothing. In the background, I heard Noah's voice. Dad says she'll come crawling back. I almost laughed. Not because it was funny, because it was predictable. At work, things escalated in a different direction. Kayla tapped my shoulder as I poured coffee in the break room. Hey, I think you should see this. She held out her phone. A Facebook post from Evelyn in a private Spokane community group. Pray for us. Our daughter stole thousands from us, abandoned us, and left us in debt. We raised her with everything we had. The comments were exactly what you'd expect. What kind of child does that? So ungrateful. I heard she bought a condo with her parents' mortgage. My chest tightened, not with shame, but with disbelief at how fast a lie spreads when people want it to be true. Jordan walked in, glanced at my face, and said quietly, "Ignore it. People project what they fear." For the first time, I didn't apologize. I didn't explain. I just breathed. But the real break came that evening. I was cooking pasta, the steam fogging my glasses, when my phone buzzed again. An email notification from Noah's middle school account. "You're trash. Dad says you ruined Grandma's life. Everyone knows what you did." The words were cruel. But the sentence structure, the phrasing, it wasn't an 11-year-old. It was Derek, almost copied from his voicemail. I saved the email. I didn't know it yet, but this was the thread that once pulled would unravel everything they tried to hide. 2 days after Noah's email, the situation mutated into something uglier, something desperate. I woke up to a string of messages from a number I didn't recognize. Screenshots, blurry photos, a half-recorded voice memo, all sent anonymously. The first image was a screenshot of a local Spokane gossip thread. Someone had reposted Evelyn's rant publicly. The second image was worse, Derek commenting underneath it, typing paragraphs about how I had abandoned a sick mother and used family money to fund my Seattle lifestyle. I stared at the photo, my stomach dropping at how casually he manufactured a new reality. But it was the voice memo that made my skin crawl. Derek's voice low and furious, whispering to someone, Noah probably. "She thinks she's so damn smart. She doesn't know we still have ways to get to her. If she wants a war, fine. We'll give her one." I replayed the clip twice before I put my phone down. My apartment felt smaller, the walls closer. I stood in the center of the room for a moment, listening. Nothing but the faint hum of the refrigerator and the rain hitting the window. I needed space, so I walked to the cafe near Lake Union. It was one of those indie places with mismatched chairs and chalkboard menus. The air smelled like burnt espresso and cinnamon syrup. I ordered a cappuccino, sat near the window, and tried to breathe. That's when Serena Holt walked in, my CEO. Tall, sharp suit presence like a blade in the room. She gave me a small nod when she spotted me, a question behind it. I must have looked worse than I realized, because she quietly asked, "Rough week," I swallowed. "Family stuff." She leaned slightly closer. "Most storms blow over if you stop standing in them." Then she squeezed my shoulder and walked away to pick up her drink. It was a small moment, but it anchored me. Someone saw me even for a moment. Well, when I got home that evening, another voicemail waited for me. Derek again, voice thick, maybe drunk. "You think a bank document fixes everything? You're still tied to us. You've always been tied to us." He was wrong, and I was about to prove it. The next shock came from the last person I expected, Russell, my father. I received a text mid-afternoon while reviewing quarterly data at work. The message was clumsy, full of typos, like he typed fast, nervous. "I didn't know what your mom did with your SSN. I'm sorry. Don't tell her," I texted. I froze, the office noise muffled behind the sudden rush in my ears. Before I could respond, another text came. "Your brother used your info too. I found emails. I don't know how to fix this." Then immediately after, "Delete these messages." My hands trembled slightly. Dad was complicit through silence, but he wasn't blind. And maybe for the first time in years, he was trying to step out of Evelyn's shadow. I didn't delete anything. That night, as if sensing her control slipping, Evelyn launched her next attack. I got tagged in a neighborhood app post next door, the digital graveyard of passive-aggressive suburban warfare. Someone had written, "Warning. There's a young woman in Seattle scamming her own family." Attached was a photo of me at the graduation party holding a paper plate, eyes tired mid-blink. Evelyn must have uploaded it. I didn't respond. I didn't flinch. I documented everything. The next morning, Alden Reyes called. "Harper, we've completed the investigation." The koi tank bubbled on the other side of the phone line, faint but familiar. "You are legally removed from the mortgage and the auto loan. You hold no responsibility for the fraudulent card. And we have written confirmation from the other parties involved. Your brother responded on record." I straightened in my chair. "What do you mean on record?" Alden hesitated. He replied to one of our verification emails, claiming he needed access raised because Harper is out of town, and that Mom already has her number. It was the final nail hammered in by Derek himself. "Legally," Alden continued, "you're clear. Completely." I thanked him, hung up, and sat there in silence. The relief wasn't loud. It wasn't triumphant. It was quiet, steady, heavy. like the first breath after being underwater too long. But my family wasn't done clawing. That night, as I walked up the stairs to my building, Tara, the neighbor from down the hall, opened her door slightly, eyes wide. "Hey," she whispered, "is everything okay? 2 people were here earlier asking for you, a woman and a guy. They were intense." My stomach dropped. "What did they say?" "They wanted your apartment number. I didn't tell them." They looked angry. Her voice lowered. "The woman kept saying, she owes us. She's not getting away with this." A chill scraped down my spine. I thanked Tara, locked myself inside, and stood in the dark living room for a long moment. The city lights flickered outside, reflecting on the window, like ghosts pressing their palms against the glass. Then my phone buzzed. A message from Derek. "We're coming. Don't bother running." No threat had ever felt so personal, so unhinged, so inevitable. I didn't reply. I didn't need to, because by then I already knew they weren't just losing money. They were losing control. And people who are used to power, people like Evelyn and Derek, never let go quietly. The knocking didn't start like knocking. It started like pounding, like someone was using their entire body to break through the door. I was in the kitchen, draining pasta steam rising in thick clouds that fogged my glasses, when the first slam rattled the frame so hard the utensils in the drawer clinked. For a second I didn't move. I knew that rhythm. I had felt it my entire childhood, Evelyn's version of knocking, the kind that wasn't a request. The kind that said, "Open this door. Now." Another blow hit the wood. Then Derek's voice thundered down the hallway. "Harper, open the damn door." My pulse spiked, not fast, sharp, controlled. I set the pot down, wiped my hands on a towel, and walked toward the door, slowly, each step echoing across the hardwood like a countdown. Before I reached it, the banging intensified. A neighbor's door opened. Someone whispered. Someone else cursed. Then Evelyn's voice, high, frantic, trembling with that brand of performative panic only she could master. "Harper, sweetheart, please. We need to talk. You've ruined everything." I didn't open the door. I didn't even get close. Instead, I pressed the small button on my wall that lit up the video intercom. The screen flickered to life. There she was. Evelyn Lane. Hair frizzed from the drive, mascara, smudged eyes wide with a fury she was trying to disguise as heartbreak. Derek stood beside her chest, heaving fists, clenched, jaw tight. His hoodie was soaked from the Seattle mist, giving him a wild, unhinged look. I hit a record on my phone, quietly, calmly. Evelyn pressed her face closer to the security camera, lips trembling. "Harper, you froze our accounts. The bank said you removed yourself from everything. How could you do that? Do you want us to lose our home behind her?" Derek kicked the wall. "Open the door. Fix it now." I kept my voice level. "You need to leave?" Evelyn laughed or choked. I couldn't tell. "Leave. We drove 5 hours to see you. We're your family. You cut contact," I said. "Remember, that was your mother being upset," she snapped. "You don't take that seriously. You fix things. You always fix things." I finally spoke a full sentence. "I'm not opening the door." That set them off. Derek slammed both palms against the door so hard the wood bowed inward for a second. Upstairs, someone shouted to knock it off. Tara peeked out from her apartment again, phone in hand, recording. Evelyn didn't miss it. She turned and hissed, "Mind your business." Then she turned back to the camera and softened instantly. "Harper, sweetheart, if we can just talk, we are talking," I said, through the door, from a distance. Her mask dropped. "Don't play games with me. You're going to call that bank tomorrow and fix this." "No," I said. Derek exploded. "You think you're better than us. Acting like Seattle made you some kind of queen. You ruined our credit. They said Mom's car might be repossessed. You're going to pay for this." I pressed the emergency shortcut on my phone. The 911 operator picked up instantly. "What's your emergency?" I lowered my voice. "This is Harper Lane. My mother and brother are outside my apartment, banging, screaming, refusing to leave. I feel unsafe." "Units are on the way," the dispatcher said. Outside, Evelyn paced, wringing her hands. "This is what you want, strangers getting involved. You want us arrested. You want your family destroyed." Destroyed, like I hadn't been living in ruins for years. 5 minutes passed. 5 long minutes filled with threats, pleas, Derek shouting, Evelyn sobbing, neighbors staring. I stayed silent, listening to the storm I didn't create and wasn't going to step into. Then blue and red lights flashed through the stairwell window. 2 officers approached, 1 male, 1 female. Calm, cute, professional. Evelyn flew at them, pointing at my door like it had personally betrayed her. She's manipulating you, she cried. She's mentally unstable. She stole from us. She won't open the door. The male officer held up a hand. Ma'am, please step back. Derek stepped forward, instead hostile. We're her family, and this, the officer said, is her home. You need to leave unless she requests otherwise. She does request otherwise, Evelyn shouted. She just doesn't know it. The female officer glanced up at the intercom camera. Miss Lane, can you hear me? Yes, my voice echoed through the hallway. Do you want them here? No? Evelyn frozen. Derek frozen. The entire hallway froze. Then they need to leave, the officer said. Evelyn shook her head slowly like she couldn't process the words. She doesn't mean that. I'm her mother. The officer's tone stayed firm. Being her mother doesn't give you the right to trespass. For the first time, I saw fear flicker across Derek's face. Raw, real. As if he realized maybe for the first time that his control had limits. Evelyn tried one last line, voice cracking. Harper, blood is blood. I stepped closer to the intercom, not too close, just enough for the microphone to catch the quiet steel in my voice. Blood is not a leash. The officers escorted them down the stairs, their footsteps echoing in fading, angry rhythms. Evelyn looked back, once eyes glossy with something between hatred and heartbreak. I didn't speak. I didn't move. I watched them disappear from the screen without unlocking the door. When the hallway emptied, the silence felt different, thicker, order, like oxygen filling a space that had been starved for years. I slid down to the floor, back against the door, the lights from patrol cars fading through the blinds. And for the first time in a long, long time, I smiled. A cold smile. A knowing one. Because this wasn't the end. It was the beginning. The building went still after the officers left, the silence settling over everything like a blanket newly shaken out, heavy but clean. I stayed on the floor a while longer, knees pulled up, hands resting over my chest, as if I finally remembered my heart was mine, and not something I had to hand over in pieces every time my family demanded it. My phone was still recording. I stopped the video, saved the file, and renamed it Boundaries, April 17th. It wasn't for revenge. Not yet. It was for truth. For the day someone asked me again to explain why I left. Why family wasn't enough. 3 days later, a thick envelope arrived from Evergreen Pacific Bank. Inside was the official release, embossed seal, notarized signature, Alden's neat handwriting at the bottom. You did the hard thing. Most people never do. I read his line 3 times. The words settled somewhere deep, somewhere untouched by guilt or obligation. Then I placed the document on my desk beside a growing folder of screenshots. Derek's messages, Evelyn's, posts, the fraudulent card application, the email Noah didn't write. Not to expose them. Not to punish them. To protect myself. Because if there was anything this family taught me, it was that truth needed to be documented before it was drowned. That afternoon, I got another message from an unknown number. A single screenshot, Evelyn's deleted Facebook post captured before she erased it, and a line beneath it. She's spinning a new story. Just thought you should know. It took me a moment to recognize the sender. My father. Russell. Finally reaching out, not as Evelyn's shadow, but as a man stepping out of one. A second message followed, hesitant but honest. I'm proud of you. I wish I'd protected you sooner. I didn't reply. Maybe one day. Maybe never. That night, I framed the release document and hung it on the wall above my desk. Not as a trophy, more like a reminder. They thought throwing me away would break me. They thought cutting me off would make me crawl back. But all they did was hand me the one weapon I never had before. Freedom. If you've ever had to choose yourself over people who share your blood, I want you to know you're not heartless. You're healing. Growing up, I thought loyalty meant staying quiet, carrying the weight, fixing what other people broke. Now I know loyalty starts with your own name. And if you've ever felt like the outsider in your own family, hit subscribe. There are more stories like this, more people surviving the same storms. This isn't the end of mine. Not even close.